Hi everyone, it's Stu here from 3B. In this video, I want to discuss something that happened to me 2 weeks ago. It was just over 2 weeks ago on the Sunday, where I was rushed to hospital after not feeling well for a good number of weeks, and then it all came to a head on that Sunday. The reason I'm doing this video is that I believe that it's important to share this with everyone that watches YouTube, that creates YouTube channels, content, and anyone that spends a lot of time sort of sitting in one place watching YouTube or playing games, or indeed creating content for YouTube, or working in an environment where you're sitting still for long periods of time. The crux of what happened to me is that for over about 5-6 weeks, I'd not been feeling well, and it started to gradually got worse and worse, to the point where on that one Sunday, I collapsed and I was rushed to hospital. And it was found within a few hours, thankfully, that I actually had a pulmonary embolism. What the pulmonary embolism is basically where you get a blood clot in your leg, in your thigh, in your calf usually, and that travels up to lodge itself in your lung, which can be life-threatening. It's a life-threatening thing, and incredibly, I've never experienced anything like that, and I don't want to do that ever again. Thankfully for me, I was very fortunate in terms of the blood clot. I'd moved to an area of my lung that wasn't life-threatening, but it still made me feel very ill. I collapsed, and I was fortunate in that regard. I will be okay. I'm on an awful lot of drugs that will enable sort of thinning of the blood and all that, and I'll be monitored, and I still don't feel 100%. I still feel dizzy. But overall, things are better than they were. And the reason why I'm saying this is that I believe it's important to share this message with people. So if you know someone that spends a lot of time, either they're a YouTuber or they're just starting out, and there's an awful lot of pressure being a YouTuber, someone that's new, to create content. There's even though YouTube say there isn't, there's this inherent feeling that you have to keep creating content, and great content. And I believe the message is important because there's this whole thing about YouTube and people burning out. And this pressure leads to you to create content, and as there's only you doing it, you have to sort of wear many hats. And that means that you spend a lot of time creating content, editing it, getting it just right. And this leads to a lot of time where you're sitting still and spending long times just sitting down, not moving. The same is also true for a lot of people that watch YouTube channels. It becomes sort of somewhat addictive and can lead to a very sedentary period where you're just sitting down for hours and hours and hours. And the same can be said for when you're playing games. You're sitting there for very long periods, not moving at all. So the reason I'm doing this video, the reason I'm sharing this sort of very personal information with you is I believe that that if I share this with you and you can share it with others, that it will alert them to the possibilities and the dangers of sitting down for incredibly long periods, usually in sometimes uncomfortable chairs, creating content or watching content can happen. And that's what happened to me. I was creating content for a company under a contract, as well as my own YouTube channel. And I was working like 50, 60 hours a week, not moving a great deal for over like 4 or 5 months. Even though I was spending the mornings, I would row, I had to use a rower and row sort of 2 kilometers a day. It still wasn't enough to stop what had happened. So I really want that to be a message. There are things that you can do, very simple. If you still are creating content and you still sort of find yourself in a very sedentary working environment, or just when you're watching, YouTube videos and playing games, it's important to get up every hour and move around. In lots of ways, you don't even have to get up. You can stretch and twist your muscles. You can, there's a lot of exercises that you can do. The best ones are what you can do for long haul flights to ease this. And there are exercises you can do to your calves, on your legs, and stretch and sort of tense them up. So look out for those online. There's a lot of exercises that you can do that will reduce the risk of anything like that happening, that what happened to me. And I think, if you can share this with someone that you know and they can share it with other people, I just want to alert people that there is a risk, a real health risk to being in an environment where your work requires you to sit down for long periods. And with the pressures of YouTube, I know there's a lot of content creators out there that probably do spend an awful lot of time being very sedentary, creating this content, creating great content, videos. Even though YouTube says, there's none of that requirement to create videos all the time, there's this sort of inherent feeling that you should. Which leads to burnout. And I want to sort of add this to that burnout aspect, that, there's a real health problem there too, which I, unfortunately for me, suffered from and will suffer from for some time, because the blood clot is still there and then my body will break it down eventually. And I'm on lots of drugs to stop my blood from clotting and adding to it. And I've become very aware, super aware. I'm always moving my legs. I'm moving around now like crazy. But so if this video can help someone, be aware of this, then I think that's an important thing. And just to prove that it did happen to me, I'm not going to show you the top of this, but this is, I think you can see it. This is my report when I was released from hospital. And as you can see, clinical, what does that say? Clinical features. And, and where does it say? There we go. Diagnosis at the very top. Pulmonary embolism. So, just so that you know that, it happened and it was a shock. And if what happened to me, if I can then share that with you and then you share that with other people to make them aware that being sedentary, playing games for hours on end, or creating content for hours on end, or watching YouTube or whatever for hours on end is actually and can be very damaging to your health. So there are exercises that you can do, even just getting up every hour and walking up and down the stairs and getting some fresh air and seeing the sunshine for once in a while. So please share, and it's great to be here. Thanks again. Don't forget to subscribe if you're into the stuff I do, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and hopefully if you can share it, that'll be great. Thanks again. Take good care. Bye-bye.